everyone, and welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage, the show where Sean and I take a look at every single theatrically released animated film in chronological order. I'm Tennille.
I'm Sean, and we have another Disney film.
Da, 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 da. It's The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Indeed. Now, this one's interesting.
This one's going to be very interesting to talk about because... and I don't know how many people are aware of this, especially if you did not grow up when these shorts came out, but this film, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, is actually an anthology of 3 shorts that were made at Walt Disney Studios. The first one being Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree in 1966, then Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, made 2 years later in 68. And then 6 years later, they made Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2 in 1974. Then it was a few years after that they all got combined together. They animated some sequences to help these shorts flow together. And then they were released all together as a package called The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Package films are back, baby!
For one time.
One time, yeah.
One time.
And it's Winnie the Pooh. It's charming as hell.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've got nothing bad to say about this movie. It is...
The character consistency is not there. They look different in each of the shorts.
Okay, yeah, but see, that's the thing. Anything that I could, nitpick about this film is something that, I feel like it just adds to the charm of the movie. So, yeah, there's things like, because these were shorts made several years apart from each other, with slightly different crews of people working on them, they look slightly different from short to short. Like the very first one, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, actually doesn't have any of the 9 old men working on it except for Wooly Reitherman as director. And I think some of the, I should say as animators, like I think some of the, like story people and character designers were like the 9 old men, but like, your supervising animators and stuff didn't really come onto the Winnie the Pooh shorts until the second one, The Blustery Day.
Okay.
And like Tigger isn't in the original short, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. Neither. And for some reason I never really realized this until I was researching this movie, but neither is Piglet. Piglet isn't in the first short.
Oh. Yeah, I guess you're right.
And that was a purposeful choice. It's not just that he, wasn't in that part of the story. It was a purposeful choice by the story team to cut Piglet and instead include Gopher, who is a character not in the original books.
I'm not in the book.
Because it was Disney's way of slightly Americanizing the story. They thought Gopher would be a character that American audiences would relate to more because he's more folksy and yada 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 yada.
Okay. Which
British people didn't care for very much, or anybody who's like a fan of the book, they're like, what the hell is this? Where's Piglet? Which is why as the movie continues or as the shorts continued, you see less of Gopher and more of Piglet, which I think is the obvious better choice. Gopher's fine, but, he does stand out compared to the other characters here.
Yeah. I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. Because these were shorts, I feel like the animation is a bit worse than, a lot of the other Disney animated films, especially for this time, even.
For this time,
it feels like it's not bad,
right?
But it's definitely still slightly lower quality than other things that came out around this time, or even the other Disney film that will be coming out later this year.
Yeah, and that's not to say there isn't great animation in this movie. There's a couple sequences in particular that really feel like they were polished. One of my favorite sequences in this movie is the whole story beat, it's in the second short, The Blustery Day, where Tigger gets introduced, and Pooh is trying to guard his house, and, like, it's raining outside, and then Pooh has the nightmare of the Heffalumps and Woozles. One, Tigger is amazing, and his introduction is fantastic.
I love Tigger so much.
It's one thing, another minor critique I would have, but again, it's like one of those things where it just kind of makes the film more charming, is that all of these characters are very slow. Like, they're just taking their time. And that's just kind of the pace of the film. So the inclusion of Tigger and, like,
his
kind of
jarring
bounce back into, like, something energetic, and that's, like, Milk Call. Just, boom, that energy right there. That is, it's so good. But, like, his introduction, he really kind of rounds out the characters in the cast by, like, being just such a big contrast to everybody else's kind of, you know,
passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, slowly paced, passive aggressive comments towards each other. Not, like, purposeful, but very selfish.
Because everyone's very, very British. And then Tigger comes, like, Pooh is like a very, yes, everything's fine and good. Oh, bother, what's going on? And then Piglet's like, oh, dear, no, don't worry about me. I don't care. And then Rabbit is very passive-aggressive.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I do not like you, but I can't tell you outright because I'm very not going to do that. That is very uncouth.
I'm not going to be rude, but I'm going to be manipulative as hell.
And then Owl is also just like, he's very grandiose, but like
pseudo-intellectual.
Like, he's a doddering idiot.
Yeah.
And they're all wonderful.
I love this cast of characters for their flaws.
And then Tigger comes in, and he's just like, I know everything. I'm the best. I am full of energy, and I'm going to tell you straight up what I think.
Yeah.
And it's completely different from everyone else, and it's
very
fantastic.
fun.
I mean,
who doesn't love Tigger?
Tigger's the best.
Yeah. Who doesn't love, like, all these characters? Except, you know, everybody has, like, that one Winnie the Pooh character where you're like, screw Rabbit. Or, you know.
I used to hate Rabbit. I used to hate Rabbit.
Now you get him.
He's great.
Yeah.
I understand him on, like, a deep, soulful level. It's great. Oh, and we forgot Eeyore. We can't leave out Eeyore.
I know, Eeyore's also great.
Eeyore is just depression.
Eeyore is also #relatable.
Kanga and Roo also exist in this movie, but
yeah, they've always
Kanga
been
especially doesn't do much.
Yeah, they've always kind of been side characters. And I've never read the original stories that these are based on, because I feel like most people nowadays are more accustomed to
the Disney adaptations that have come out every 2-3 years.
Yeah. Disney has definitely milked the Winnie the Pooh empire for all it's worth. But these are very, very good shorts, and they make you feel good watching them. They're just like peak Disney feel-good content.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All the voice talents in this are good too. I know Sean and I sometimes don't always give the voice actors proper spotlight, but that's just because I feel like everybody looks up, like, if you're gonna start looking up history facts, voice actors are usually one of the first things people latch onto. Like, in Animation Pilgrimage, I try to focus on animation and the animators as our actors and, you know, the stories behind production and stuff like that. And while voice actors play a big part in that, it's not direct, like, it is directly linked to the animation, but, like, they aren't.
Animation has two people working in tandem to create one singular character. Everyone knows the voice.
Right.
Everyone already knows the voice. So you want to bring to light
the animator,
like
versus
the person actually,
the voice actor.
You want to bring to light the visuals that were made
because
to complement the voice.
Voice actors are artists.
Yes. And,
you know, like, the people in this film do a fantastic job. You know, Sterling Holloway as Winnie the Pooh, John Fiddler as Piglet, Ralph Wright as Rabbit. Barbara Luddy is Kanga. Yeah, Barbara Luddy is Kanga. Paul Winchell is Tigger. And Hal Smith is Owl. It's a great group of voice actors. Sterling Holloway gives one of his best performances as Pooh. And he's done so many things for, the Walt Disney Studios up to this point, too, with all of his other different voices. But, those voices can only get you so far in the visual department. We've seen so many animated films where sometimes they have great voice actors who are doing great stuff, but if the animation doesn't deliver that as well,
I mean,
you don't get as strong of a performance. And it can go the other way around too.
Yes. It's one of those things that I can't say for sure for any studio, but other than Disney for sure, there are two ways of doing voice acting in an animated movie. Either you have the voice actors read their lines, and then that is given to the animators, and they go off of the voice lines to actually animate the character, where they can take emphasis in the voice acting and exemplify it in the animation. Or, oftentimes in a very quick cycling, or a quick turnaround time, what often happens is the animation is done, and then voice actors are brought in to dub the lines in afterwards.
Right.
So it can...
And that takes different talent. There are some people who are great at doing one and not great at doing the other.
Yeah.
It's a very different skill set going into that. It's same with, the people animating that kind of thing.
It's like both of the animators and voice actors.
Yeah, how to plan for dubbing and stuff. And other people would be like, myself included, I would not know how to not do it where I get the voice line and then I animate.
It's like, oh, you mean I have to figure out the timing for how this should be roughly and then animate it? I guess one very good example, distinction that people probably know about is a lot of American animation, especially Disney,
dubbed.
Especially Disney, it's pre-recorded and then dubbed. But then television animation, or movies specifically, are usually recorded and then animated. Television is often the other way around, especially in Japan and other Asian countries. They'll just animate the whole thing, and then other people come in and they dub the voices on over afterwards.
Yeah.
So Japanese animators are masters at figuring out roughly what the timing should be, and then they come in and dub over it, which can sometimes get really weird reads because they're like, oh, we didn't have enough time, or we were here for a really long time and we didn't need it.
Yeah. And there is no right or wrong way to do this. One, generally, if you have the pre-recorded, a lot of times that's more focused on facial animation and actually expressing the lip sync. And putting in more character animation with lip sync. But if you do it the other way around, it saves time on lip syncing, and you can do more action and do stuff with bigger poses and stuff like that. So there's no right or wrong way to do that. But anyway, we're talking about Winnie the Pooh.
I don't know. It just seemed like an interesting thing to talk about, because I don't know if we've talked about it yet here on Animation Pilgrimage. And
that's a good point. And it's a good thing to talk about now, because we're in such a weird time for animation where, this language of limited animation, especially when it comes to lip sync and stuff, is being, kind of perfected and revolutionized every few years. The television game is changing year to year very quickly. And we'll just continuously see that as the years go on.
Yeah.
Whereas, in this film, it's perfect already.
Yeah.
The Disney animators have perfected their craft, and even with these shorts being so far apart from each other in production-wise,
you can't tell.
Yeah, it's
it's very difficult to tell.
You would need to be someone who, really cares about picking these things apart to even notice that, you know, like one of the biggest tells in the first short, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, that was made in 1966. That's, you know, around the same time as, you know, 101 Dalmatians, Sword in the Stone. And so one of the things you can tell that that short is a little older is because there's a lot more of the Xerox cleanup or lack of cleanup drawings there that you can see. The animators haven't gotten used to drawing cleaner drawings, and you can see those rough pencil marks everywhere on the characters. Whereas in the later shorts, that process has been cleaned up a little bit, and you don't see that roughness as much.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, since the first short was made or released in 1966, it was actually February of 1966. Walt was still alive when this first part of the shorts were released. And he was still alive during the production of the second. So Walt had a little bit of input on this one, and Woolie Reitherman was directing. Originally, Walt wanted to make it a full-length feature film, and then later, after a few story meetings, it was decided to make them shorts because they felt that they could better adapt the book, which is interesting because, you know, Disney's not really known for adapting books all that well. But
it's true.
But again, I have not read the original Winnie the Pooh books myself, but it's generally considered, like, these Winnie the Pooh shorts are generally considered more faithful than pretty much any other
adaptation?
Yeah, Disney adaptation. Or like one of them that's like up there. That's pretty faithful. Like, there's a few things that aren't from the books, like Rabbit trying to make Pooh's butt part of his decor, and, you know, Gopher, like we talked about earlier. And I'm sure there's also a few other, like, Americanisms, and the songs and such, of course, are not in the book. But, like, they're considered fairly faithful adaptations. And I think it really speaks volumes that the art direction kind of takes that seriously, due to just, like, how much fun they have with the characters being
inside
stuffed animals
a storybook.
And inside a storybook. I love the illustrated book backgrounds that they have for this, and the characters hopping out of the pages of the book, or needing, like, to take a little hop to, like, get over the seam of the book, or messing around with the letters of the book, and, you know, making some, like, typography kind of jokes and stuff like that. Like, that's super charming and original, and something we haven't seen before.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I really like this movie, and I think it's basically just like a perfect little movie.
Yeah. Obviously doesn't break much bounds in any sense, but it's just good.
It's just nice.
It's a nice film.
Uh-huh.
It's a nice respite.
From a lot of 70s we've had to consume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, I think that's going to be it for this episode. So join us back here next time as we go back to Toei in Japan and see what their latest film is with The Wild Swans.
Mm-hmm. See you then.
If money's what you covet, you'll find that they love it, because they guzzle up the thing you prize. They're green, they're blue, they're pink, they're white, they're round, they're square, they're a terrible sight. They tie themselves in horse.